That was about this idea of medicine's adaptive pathways to patients. And the background to this is that in our modern healthcare environment, we are facing a number of competing objectives that are all legitimate, but they are very different to reconcile with each other. For example, we know that some patients, today's patients, have an urgency to get access to promising new treatments. At the same time, we want to ensure that the drugs we allow on the market as regulators are well tried and tested, and that creates tension. We also know that the future, certainly in oncology, is not a one-size-fits-all single drug treatment, but will likely consist of personalized treatments and even more difficult, personalized treatment combinations or personalized treatment sequences. That is an opportunity, but it is also a methodological challenge. How will you demonstrate efficacy in this myriad of clinical situations and scenarios? So we will have to broaden our armamentarium of research methodologies. And then we know that there is, of course, the financial issue. On the one hand, we want to support the innovation engine, we want to keep incentives for innovation out there, but we know that our healthcare systems are under financial stress. How do you reconcile that? So that is the foundation why this medicine's adaptive pathways to patients idea was born and is now pursued by a number of stakeholders. We no longer call it adaptive licensing because we recognize that it is more than licensing. Licensing does not get you to the patient, or if you're a company, does not get you to market. It is all the decision makers along the road that need to be aligned if we want to achieve success. Now, how would it work out in practice? The idea is that you define usually a narrow, treatment-eligible population that you would focus your development on. You can allow the drug on the market, hopefully early, to satisfy the need of those patients who are in most urgent need. But then you continue the learning process. The evidence generation has to continue over time. So it's not over once the drug is out on the market. That means that also payers will have to come to grips with that idea that in the beginning we may know a little less about this product, so we have to narrow the treatment-eligible population also on market. But as we know more, we could widen the treatment-eligible population, and that is important, we will widen from a regulator's point of view the indication, and from a payer's point of view, we may set a new price. That is why all of us need flexibility. So it is about repeat cycles of evidence generation and reassessing and reevaluating the value or otherwise of a new product. The idea here is to strike the balance between those patients who are in need today. So those who are sick patients today would benefit by having access to something, hopefully that will help them, that they wouldn't otherwise, under a traditional system where you take years and years and years of learning before you're allowed on the market. If, on the other hand, you are a patient who is not yet sick, but who will likely be a patient in 10, 15, 20 years, which is something that will happen to all of us, then you will want a thoroughly tested and vetted drug. And we're trying to square that circle by having this lifespan approach to learning and evidence generation and modifying the license and the usage. This is very difficult. We haven't at the EMA given ourselves a timeline because we know that this is a learning curve, that is a journey that we will all go together. I think the pressure to keep up the momentum comes from patients, because patients keep telling us, you're not good enough, why do I have to wait? We're in constant interaction with patients who tell us to keep up the pressure. I could not predict the future. I hope we will get there. I'm confident that this is the right approach to our problems, but I would be very hesitant to give you a timeline. Well, only to say that this requires the contribution of all the decision makers. And when I say decision makers, I mean first the proxy decision makers that are regulators, health technology assessment bodies and payers, but then also the individual level decision makers, and that is first and foremost patients and their clinicians. They all have to be on board, and of course the industry who is developing these new products. And second, I think it requires all of us to understand also the concept of uncertainty. And some of the critics of this idea point out that this is a lowering of the evidence standards. I totally disagree with that notion. It is not a lowering of the evidence standards, it is an acceptance of initial higher uncertainty in order to provide benefit to some patients, but that higher uncertainty will progressively be reduced over time.